Mutual success plans are an absolute weapon. I'm going to detail today how I use mutual success plans at Gong with nearly every single opportunity to help keep them on track, how to help guide the buyer throughout the process, which will ultimately help with both your win rates as well as your deal velocity as well. So the first way I'm going to use it is I'm going to use it pretty early on in the process, typically like the second or third call. So pretending as the second that we're on a demo being a second call, I might pull this up live at the beginning of call number two and say like, hey, I know it's early on in the evaluation still. We had our initial meeting on the 15th. I marked that as complete. Today is the demo. I'll go ahead and mark that complete in advance of today. What I recommend as a next step is a deep dive demo, likely with Karen to get her perspective in addition to yours. And then from there, right, I might actually have a second one to like exec alignment or pricing call or whatever that looks like. Why I think it's really helpful is to always kind of have like the next 1 to 3 steps there so that it's on the roadmap and you can like plant that seed before the call even starts. Then you run this amazing demo. You leave 15 minutes at the end. You pull this up again. You say like, "Hey Jim, like, are you open to a recommendation?" Yes. Awesome. Given the demo today went great, and I know you're really excited about it, like, let's get Karen's perspective as well. In addition to yours, to make sure like the entire team is aligned. Like, how can we get that scheduled? Right, and come in really, really confident. At least that way you're leading with a strong perspective. Maybe Jim tells you in that case, like, oh no, Karen wouldn't need to be involved, but Lisa would. Great. Let's find time with Lisa, right? Whatever that looks like. You also have an opportunity when you're pulling this up, since it's less of just like face to face on Zoom. It's kind of a nice backdrop to like fill in some notes, work along the way, and you can always ask like, hey, like who else would need to be involved during this evaluation? Like, what else should be on my roadmap as I think about like making this a huge success and trying to get Gong in your hands? Really consultative way to continue to lead with a point of view, and then it'll help them kind of open up around what their process looks like. Here are some steps if you have like a trial to kind of plant the seed early on like, hey, it's a really easy process. It's a couple integrations, couple calls. I'll also use the MSP probably later, depending on like how long your average deal size is or sales cycle is, I should say. But I'll start to talk through like legal security signer. I think when you have a backdrop again for these questions, it feels way less like an interrogation and more just like two people collaborating on the doc together. And again, you can make some edits live and be like, hey, I know like legal typically needs to review something like Gong. Like, do you have an internal counsel? Is that external? What does that look like? Great. In your experience, how long does that typically take? Hey, taking a step back, like, when's the last time you brought on technology? Like, what else has to happen from a procurement standpoint? So you can kind of run some discovery around these 3 questions, identify really early on like who the owner is for all 3, but I think just as important, like how long that process takes, whether your champion has any experience going through it or not. And then any other like potential roadblocks to start to think about, like, oh, we have a second security review for AI, or we have a second person in procurement that does the negotiation, and like starts to uncover that really early. That'll help make sure your deal like stays on track to close by the projected close date, help with your forecast accuracy, and ultimately, again, just being really consultative with them. The one thing I'd recommend here as well is like share this early on with them, encourage them to make some edits, be like, hey, if this process changes or like you learn something new, like feel free to make some edits. I'll also have this resources tab here, and you can put in like your trust radius, your G2 review, some case studies that are relevant, like, anything else you kind of want to plant the seed with that like you think would be beneficial if they checked it out. But overall, it's a really great resource. Just continue to kind of add fields. And I'd say the one like pitfall to avoid is never give like 15 steps out of the gate, even if you're in enterprise sales and typically an average cycle might be 25 steps. You don't want to show 25 steps on the second call. It's going to seem daunting. It's going to seem too much. So just kind of leave the next couple steps in front of them and collaborate on how to make that possible. If this is helpful, I will leave the mutual success plan template that I have in the comments or in like the info section under this video. And please throw me a like or throw me a comment if you found it useful. Thanks so much.